guys, Dr. Decks here. Today I'm going to teach you how to build a staircase. It can be one of the most complicated and time-consuming parts of a deck. We charge a premium for ours, and I'm going to show you how you can charge a premium for yours, and just the overall steps of how we do a staircase and why you need to do certain things a certain way. Alright, so follow along, and if you do get something out of this content, please click that subscribe button. It's super important to us that you guys are following along and getting all the knowledge and information that we keep sharing. This is an investment. It's coming out of my own pocket, so I'd appreciate it. If you're going to watch, please click the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified every time we're putting out new content, click that bell icon as well. All right, enough of that. I really appreciate it. Let's follow along and see if you guys learned something today. All right, so you got to have one of these. The way I'm going to teach you guys how to lay out a staircase is with a common rafter square or a L square. You can pick these up at any home center or your local lumberyard. There's inches on one side and both sides actually. This one's pretty hammered, but this one, for me, this is my truest square. I've compared this square with other ones. This one has stayed square, so this is the one I use, and I only use it for laying out stair jacks, but I've had it for probably 15 years, so it's a little hammered, but we'll get into doing the layouts and that thing in a minute. The first thing you have to know and have to learn about building a staircase, you got to figure out the height of your deck. So today, we're just going to use this table as our simulated deck height. Now this could be either the frame of the deck, or this could be the height of the deck with decking on top of it. It does matter. There's a 1 inch, usually there's about a 1 inch difference. Could be 3/4, could be 1.5 inches, depending on the thickness of your decking. All right. So for what we're doing today, we're just going to assume that this is framing. So we're going to frame our stairs to the frame height of the deck. Okay, so decking has to go on top of this still. All right, so I'm just going to measure this. I haven't even measured this yet. We're at 29 inches. So you got to take that height, 29 inches or whatever the height of your deck is. So we have 29 inches to our rough frame, okay? So now I got to figure out, okay, how many stairs is that going to be? Well, an average stair height, standard, for me is 7.5 inches. So I always try to figure 7.5 inches max or less, okay? So today, 29 inches, well 7 times 4 is 28, plus 1 inch. If we divide that by 4 rises, is 1/4 inch more. So each rise is gonna be 7.25 inches. Yours might vary. You gotta do a little bit of math. You know what? On your cell phone, I downloaded this CM Pro Calc, Construction Master Pro. This will help you calculate stairs. I don't know how to use all the functions, but I do know one thing. If you go 29 inches divided by 4 rises equals 7.25 inches. This is a really quick way. I use this all the time when I'm laying out deck joists and things like that. So this could be a really handy tool. I think it's 25 bucks. It was kind of a spendy app. I used to be able to get it for free, but then as I upgraded my phone for some reason, they said, I'm going to screw the doctor on this deal, and I'm going to charge him $25. And you know what? I paid it. I paid it, and I use this every week. I might not use it every day, but I do use it a lot. So for 25, it saves me a ton of frustration and a ton of mistakes. All right? So there's one of the tips that you might want to think about, you know, for your Android or your iPhone or whatever. All right, so now I know my rise. My rise is 7.25 inches. Okay, so when you start to lay out your stair jack, there's one thing you got to remember. Now that's from finished grade. Today we're working off concrete. Okay, so from finished grade, your first rise is 7.25. You have to deduct the thickness of your decking material or your stair jack material. Okay, so if you take, for all intents and purposes, we're going to use TimberTech AZEK PVC decking. So our decking thickness is 1 inch. So if we have a 7.25 inch rise, we have to subtract 1 inch off the bottom rise only. Okay, so your bottom rise is 6.25. Every other subsequent rise up to the top of the deck is going to be 7.25. Okay, now, I never make my first stair level with the deck. Never. Why? Because it's not necessary. It's not necessary to cut your first stair jack at the same height of the deck unless that's what you want. I never do that. When you leave my decks, you step down. So if we need 4 rises to get to here, you have to subtract 1 rise so that you don't end up with a stair jack that's flush or level with the table. Okay? Or that's never flush or level with the deck. So what we're doing is we're going to cut out 3 rises for our stair jack, and the 4th rise will be the actual deck. Okay? If that is confusing to you, don't worry. We'll get into it when we go to install the staircase. Okay? So now I know we're going to do I know our rise is 7 1/4. I know that our bottom jack needs to be 6 1/4. And I know I need 3 of them to be able to make a staircase that will let me access the top of this deck. Now, next question. What about the run? Doctor, how do you figure out the run of the staircase? Well, fairly simple. I'm going to have a lot of carpenters that don't agree with me on this particular topic because I trim my decks out differently than a lot of people do. So my stair run is usually 2 deck boards plus an end grain cap. So my stair run is going to be 2 5.5 inch boards plus a 1/4 inch gap, and I add a 1/4 inch extra so that I have a little bit of room to work with on the surface of my run. So it's going to be 5.5 plus 5.5 plus a 1/4 plus an extra 1/4, which is 11.5 inches. So now we have, now that I've figured out my deck, so let's just say you're using 5/4 by 4 cedar, you're going to have to go 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, plus a 1/4, 1/4, and a 1/4. So you have 3/4 of an inch of gaps, plus 3.5, 3.5, 7, 8, 9, 10.5, plus 10.5. So 10.5 and 3/4 is 11.25. So your run would be 11.25. My run is going to be 11.5. And then once I lay all that, I'm going to cap. I'm not going to put a lot of people do it this way. So if this doesn't make sense to you or you want to trim your stairs differently, you need to deduct the measurements that you need for that nosing. Okay? But my trim, I always cap off every end grain of everything so you never see the end grains of my decking. So on the stairs, it looks like this. We will insert a photograph for you just so you understand what I'm getting at. All right, guys, so now we know the height of our deck. We know the height that we need to make each rise. We know the distance of the run. Now we need to figure out, okay, how many stair jacks do we need to make? Well, that depends on a couple things. If you're permitting the deck, what jurisdiction you're in, so on and so forth. The code requirements for your area. I cannot speak for where your topography or where you live. I can't speak for that. I don't know. Where I live in the Pacific Northwest, we have a set of rules. Depending on the brand of decking, they have guidelines. Go to the website. If the company that made your decking has a web page, go to the web page or go to your local code requirement and see what the distance apart from the stair jacks need to be to code. Traditionally, we go 12 inches on center or less for our jacks. And then on top of that, I always put a solid 2x8 on the front nosing of every single stair or a piece of 2x. And the reason I do that is because it really helps with the impact when you're coming downstairs. The nosing, that's why we have to bring our jacks in to code, is because when you step down on a step, you have more impact, more weight is pushed onto the stair jack. The reason I put a 2x8 up is because it reduces the impact that the jacks take, and a lot of the weight is transferred into that 2x8, which is a lot better structurally than when we take a 2x12 and we cut it up. Okay? So put that in your notes, and it just makes the staircase rock solid. I can build a 6-jack set, and I don't need to put any support underneath it because it doesn't bounce. I can put Andy up on that thing, and it doesn't bounce. I've stood underneath the staircase and said, okay, Andy. And that's my test. I do the Andy test and have him walk up and down the stairs aggressively to see how much give we have. If there's very little deflection, we're good. Okay, so, and your local building department may call you in or out on that depending on what you have for staircases. I've never had a building inspector fail me at 12 inches on center, even if I was supposed to go 9, because I had that solid 2x8 in the front. If anything else, they may call you to add a piece of 2x4 in between your stair jacks to help support the load in the center of that deck board. But that's getting a little bit to overkill. Okay, so now that we know all that information, we can transfer that to a piece of lumber. There's a lot of great information right there, guys. I hope you understood it. If you have any questions, leave them below. We'll do our best to get back to you. You can also DM me through Instagram. My handle is @drdecks, @drdecks. I'd appreciate if you'd follow me there as well. So for now, that's part 1 of our series on how to build stairs, strictly layout and configuring, how to figure out your rise and your run. You know, if you got something out of that, please click that subscribe button. Click the bell icon if you want to be notified of future updates. Stay tuned for the next part of this video series.